Hello and welcome to day 14 of the pandemic lockdown here for COVID-19 at Brightview Farm. It's been a really rainy day today, and so we told the family that this would be an internet-based day. So everyone is happily inside using their devices to go on sites of some sort. I have no idea. I played a lot of freestyle today. We had some visitors today. We had someone come by that needed a bicycle for their daughter. Apparently dad ran over one of the bicycles in the driveway, and so we had some extra bicycles. So that was a nice little visit. Very interesting, unlocking the gate and allowing people in. And that was actually the first time that we've really had anybody in to the farm. And so lots of distancing going on there because that's pretty important. And so so bicycles, left hands, and then another good buddy from Peterborough who's on his way up to Parry Sound stopped in to get a little sourdough starter. And once again, it was nice to have some chats, some social. Still stayed like 20 feet apart the whole time. And everyone, it's funny, you transfer something from one person to another and everyone's using hand wash and Lysol wipes, and it's just a different world. So anyways, today, not doing a whole lot around the farm. Two things to show you. One is I'm in the orchard right now that we've planted in the front yard. We've got 48 trees, 49 trees here, I guess. 6 cherry and the rest are apple. So we've got 4 rows of apple trees here. We've got Norland, we've got Cortland, and we've got some Honeycrisp and Aromax. And the way we've planted our apple trees is we've planted them in rows, as you can see, looking down the row right here. We've planted them in rows, and the trees, these are semi-dwarf, so they'll grow to be about between 10 and 12 feet tall. Hopefully no taller than that, because that's still too tall for me. And they should only be growing about 5 feet out in each direction, which means down the row the trees will almost be touching, sort of like a hedgerow. And then between the rows, so between the varieties, I'm going to trim the branches as much as possible and not let them grow towards each other. So these trees were planted 2 years ago. The last 2 rows down at the very end were planted last year, and so we're just going to trim them up a little bit and see what needs to be done. Okay, as far as apple tree trimming goes. Okay, this is an example of a Honeycrisp tree. This is a row of Honeycrisps. We're pruning for a few different reasons. The first pruning that we did when we first got them 2 years ago, we cut them off to a certain height that we want. It's about 4 feet tall, and I don't want a really tall tree. I don't want to have to pick apples up at 10 feet if I can help it. And you'll see when we get to the other orchard some trees that we've planted that we haven't pruned very well, and some that we've pruned better than others. And so I've cut it off here, and what'll happen is other leaders will grow. I'm going to put a weight on this in the next couple of weeks to kind of pull this branch down. Now we've got lots of branches coming off of this central branch, and if you look here, this one is just loaded down with branches. Every year more branches, of course, are going to sprout. We want to reduce. In the beginning, you're growing the branches right now that are going to be branches in 8 or 10 years, and so you only want, in our case, we only want about 3 main branches. And so when I look at this tree, knowing that the other row is behind me over in this direction, I don't want anything growing out this way. And so I'm going to leave this branch because it's growing kind of down the row, and I'm going to leave this branch because it's growing down the row. But this little guy in here, I'm going to go up nice and close, and I'm going to snip him off. And seeing that I've got this branch right here kind of right above that branch, I don't really want 2 branches on the same side in the exact same direction. And so it seems a little bit cruel, but we're gonna lose that one right there. Now this guy, once again, we're gonna bend it to go out in that direction. We've got this one coming here. From this one, if you look on this branch here, I don't know how well you can see that, but there are two little stream kind of branches here. We're only gonna keep one of the 2, and I'm gonna snip off this one closest to me. And we're going to leave just one there, so it's going to head out in that direction. And that tree is pretty well done for right now. The other little branches in here we should deal with. If I go down the row, and I just work my way down the row, some people may fault me for not cleaning my snips between trees. We're just doing 40 trees. We don't have any disease here so far. We're blessed, I suppose. If we did encounter some different blights, we would have to, sanitize between, but I'm not going to. So this tree, we've been really lucky. This branch is growing right down the row, and this branch is growing right down the row. So I like those 2, and these 2 are going out in a direction that I really enjoy because there's no other apple trees over that way. So I am going to snip off this one and this one. I'm going to make those ones gone, and even this one, because it's pretty low. I don't want to have a big branch here and then a big branch really close. So I'm going to leave everything else, and we'll see what happens in a year's time, if anything grows. The next one we see is pretty bushy. We got a lot of stuff going on here. When I trimmed the initial one, I trimmed it right here, which is at about the 4-foot mark, but I didn't bend this branch down in time, and so it looks like a year later I tried to do the same thing again. I just didn't wisen up. And so I'm going to do something fairly drastic here. I'm actually going to take out that entire old central leader. I'm going to make this sort of the new leader. So I'm going to take that one right out on a bit of an angle, just so that any water that collects on it will drip off. I didn't get all the way through, which isn't so good. There we go. And that some people think, oh, you need to paint it or do something to those because it's an open wound. It's just fine. That'll be just fine. Now this branch right here is going to end out going towards the middle of the row, and so is this one. So I'm going to take out this one right here. I'm going to take out this one branch that's going in that direction. And also, there's one down here that's going to be a little low for when I'm cutting grass. I really just want to be able to get under here with the riding lawnmower as much as possible. And if you look over on this side, I don't know how well you can see it, this one is heading away from the rest of my trees, which is good. But there's one directly underneath it, and there's one over here too. So I've kind of got branches in multiple areas. I'm going to take out this one really low one, and we're going to leave it. Now, up here at the top, I've got a branch on this one that's kind of growing in towards the middle of the tree. I'm going to take it out. Anything going towards the middle of the tree we want to get rid of. And the same thing with this one right here. We've got it going towards the middle of the tree. I'm going to take it out as well, okay? So coming down to this tree, I can see this is one that I replanted last year. We had some cattle got into our orchard and killed some, and this one is only 1 year old, so I didn't really prune it very well last year. I've got branches going in all directions. If you can see that, I've got a little branch here, 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 here. They're all over the place. I want to keep the ones that are going that way, so that one over there I'm going to keep, but I'm going to snip one of them. There's just too many in one spot. This one is coming out this way, but it's really close. It's really, really close. If you can see it, this one and that one are really close together. So I'm going to snip this little guy right off and leave that one. I've got one above it. I'm going to snip that one off. I'm going to snip this one off. And I'm going to take out this central leader here and hope that the branch behind it kind of starts growing out in that direction. And I might take this little one off right here as well. So it seems rather drastic when I'm done. What you'll find is in a few weeks when these buds all start to pop, we're going to have branches going in all directions, and they'll really just they'll flourish. The more that you prune them, the better they'll flourish. So it's good to prune them. I'll take you over to the old orchard and we'll see what some of those trees look like here while I'll just finish these up. So I trimmed all the new apple trees, the young ones that are all 1 or 2 years old compared, well, to us. They're probably closer to 8 or 9, no, 7 or 8 years old. 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess they'd be 4 or 5. They'd be 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. What I've got in front of me is a tree that we planted here just around the time that we got married. And so we had huge problems in our old orchard. Our cattle used to graze right over in that field over there, and they would break through the fence and kick the crap out of our trees on a regular basis. And so some things happened, like this here is what happens when the root itself, this tree, is growing from the root, whereas this is the old tree. It's actually died. It's got a black scab issue, and it's not doing well at all. In fact, I'll probably come through with a chainsaw and cut it out. The rootstock of all these trees is a really hardy rootstock, and what they do is they graft it. They take the tree they want, which is the tree that you see on top, and they graft it to a rootstock from a rootstock that will last in our climate. Part of that process is also to help dwarf them, to make them smaller, and so that one is good for nothing. The healthy tree there is actually no good to me. So this tree, there's 2 trees here that we've harvested a lot of apples from in the last few years. I think there's 7 or 8 other trees here. That one there's got some black scab issues. They just didn't get taken care of while we were not living here, and so what I'll do is I'll go through on this tree, and any of these kind of stray branches that have now like new growth, this one, I'll take them out. These ones that are in close, this is what's called a water spout. It's come right out of the branch and it's growing straight up. I'm going to take all of those out. They won't produce fruit, and really what they'll do is they just kind of suck energy from the tree. And so we thin them out. Part of the problem was these trees weren't thinned out enough, and because they didn't get enough sunlight, you can see that we've got some lichens growing on them. And so I'm going to take out some of the major branches that are aiming up. These buds right here, these short little ones that you see, that's where I'm going to get apples growing. I'm going to have apples growing on the ends of all of these little sets right here. These little guys here will be apples. So this tree will produce, it produces regularly. Well, I think last year we got about 1.5 bushels or 2 bushels from this tiny little tree. And so pruning is really essential. You can't just let it go. You just can't let it go without pruning. If you do, they get insanely bushy. So these ones aren't as good as some of the other trees we have. I'm going to walk you over to our best tasting tree. It's a Cortland, which turns out to be one of our favorites. I'll show you this little guy. This is what happens when a cow breaks off a tree down at the base, and then you leave it, and it grew into this, and it actually produced some half decent apples. I have no idea what variety they are because they were just such a mishmash, but it really needs pruning. If you look, all these branches that are sort of in the middle, any branches that go towards the middle of the tree, you just take them out. We don't want them to be there. So even this one here, like these 2 branches are going to rub. So I'll take this one off. You can see last year's cut is right here, and then these other branches grew. So I'll just take this one out. Kind of, looking around to see what I want to thin down here. This branch that's just growing straight into the middle of the tree serves no purpose. It's just gonna block sunlight later on. This one's just gonna block sunlight. And so you end up taking out quite a few branches as you go. This tree right here produces beautiful apples, but it's having some other problems. The sapsuckers have been going into its bark. If you look, I let it grow to be about 6 feet tall before I really started to prune it out, which is good. It's nice and easy to cut grass around, but it's tall, and it's really hard to harvest the top ones. We use our tractor. We put the kids in the bucket of the tractor and we lift it up, and they have fun. I don't fall, and so that works pretty well. So today's a good day to prune. It's a spring, so they're not budded out yet. You don't want to prune after. If you prune after the leaves have come out, what happens is you'll get a ton of those water spouts. We've got other apple trees here, there, and everywhere, but once again, these ones we really didn't care for a long time. And so for about 5 years while we were building the house, and it really neglected them. So they're not as well kept as they should be, but with some pruning, they still produce. So for those of you who have apple trees, lots of good websites, lots of different styles. There's no rule. It really is like everyone has an opinion as to how to prune the trees and make them produce. This one is leaning over. The cows pushed it over. The roots came out, and we left it, and it grew. Cows. No cows in the new field, but no cows anywhere. Actually, it's kind of nice. Some days I miss them. Most days I don't. So that's it for apple tree pruning for today. So I got done trimming all of the trees and went for a little toot around in the woods. And when I got back, Laura Lee wanted to go for a little 4-wheeler ride.
Yes, it's nice actually. It's really warm, surprisingly.
It is quite nice actually.
Yeah.
And I think really her secret ploy is she wants to find pussy willows. We're always trying to find pussy willows, and today we found some, so that's good. So we can cut some tomorrow and bring those into the house. So as we were driving through the woods, I showed Laura Lee where we've had a resident moose here all winter. And there's 2 ways that you can tell that there's been a moose here. One of them, all of these branches have been browsed. So if you take a look, all the branches here are bit off, all of them. Like, it doesn't matter where you look, the buds are gone on all of these. And a little tree over there is totally decimated. So the moose has come through, but the number one sign is you can see this nice big pile of poop here. And it's,
oh my God, don't touch it.
it's pretty chocolatey.
Oh my God,
and when I was a kid, what we used to do is we used to pick it up and we would find a good friend and we would throw it at them.
Oh my God!
We would throw it at them.
Frickin'.
And
You are disgusting.
and so it's actually quite fun. If you'd like to see that again, it looks a little like this. It looks a little like this. So what you do is you take the little chocolate turd and you find someone to throw it at and you turf it at them. And so yeah, that's how you know that you've got a moose in the woods. Want to lick my fingers?
No, you're sick. You actually hit me.
I think that's so. I think that's it for today. Bye bye.
With poo.
I hit you with poo.